Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, but I can't see you. Oh, there you are.
I just turned my camera on. Yeah, I don't have a stand up here, so I'm just holding my phone. I'm gonna try it this way.
Will that work for you?
Yeah, yeah, I think
That won't be
I
annoying to hold it?
I think I can do it for a half an hour. I may, yeah, it's fine. I anyway, I've just got a little bit of a recording challenge in my house. I can't get my earbuds to pair with my Mac, and then my computer downstairs, the audio doesn't sound very good. Anyway, so here we are.
All right. Um, yeah, so, oh, I guess we're already recording. I forget that I have it automatically set to start recording. Um, so, yeah, how should we start? We can,
Yeah,
I feel like it, yeah. Well, and let's think about this.
yeah.
The last one that we did was, I can stop this for a second.
Uh-huh.
All right, here we go.
So, Amy, it's so great to see you. I think what we had decided to do this week was just have a conversation that, on diabetes challenges and kind of things that have come up for us recently. We do this, I don't know, every few months, I think, where you and I just talk about
Second.
things. And it feels like recently, um, I don't know about you, but I've had a lot of challenges, and it's just helpful, I
Yes.
think, to vent a little bit.
Yes. And I
Yeah.
think what some of our listeners might not remember, or if somebody's just starting the show, is that you are a professional endocrinologist. And so it's great. I don't know that I give anything back to you, but I always get so much talking to you because you know what you're talking about and you have great wealth of knowledge and experience. So
Appreciate that.
yeah, I know that I feel like I'm fortunate to get to bounce questions off of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just feel like it's been a diabetes week from hell for me, or really like 2 weeks. I just feel like, and I won't dominate, I'll try not to dominate the conversation, but um, and you know when you get so tired, like when you get so tired or stressed that your eye, like my eye keeps doing that eye twitch thing, which has
Which
nothing
I
to
think,
do
yeah.
with diabetes, but I'm like, I know that that's a sign from my body telling me you're overtired. Um,
Yeah.
but work has been super stressful and um, I like my most recent Dexcom fell off and I had this extra tape on it, fell off about 3 days early, which isn't a big deal, but the Dexcom before that had also fallen off a couple days early, so in total, that puts me like a week behind without being able to fill my prescription. So I've been without CGM for like almost 2 weeks. And so, back to the pricking my finger and which has meant, the other night I had to drive to CVS at like right before I was falling asleep. I realized that I was out of glucose tabs, because I haven't had to use them in a while. So I had to get in the car, go to CVS, buy glucose, just buy the cheap over the counter ones. Um, and then um, the most and then I've been having more low blood sugars. And so the one I wanted to talk about to get to the point was a couple days ago, and Reed was with me, my 14-year-old, and I had gone to pick him up at school, and I made a to-go cup of coffee, and so I gave an extra injection of Humalog, and picked him up, dropped him off at his dad's house, and then I was running errands. And I really, and I, I feel like I can almost always tell when a low blood sugar is coming. There are just certain signs that I can tell when it's coming. And this one really came out of nowhere. And I picked Reed back up, get in the car, and we were driving back to my house. And it was like, you know, all of a sudden, like I felt like I was seeing like those white flashes in my
Hmm.
eyes, and I'm driving, and I
Oh
could just
gosh.
I could just feel that feeling like in my chest, And so I had to pull over to the side of the road, and I didn't want to scare Reed, but I just was sitting there eating glucose tabs, and it just felt like it was taking a while, for me to come back. And it was so upsetting on so many different levels, because where I pulled the car over wasn't a very safe place to pull over. But I knew if I had kept going, we were about to get
Yeah.
on a bridge, and I was like, I can't get
Right.
on that bridge.
Yeah.
And Reed's sitting next to me, and I was so grateful that he just kept it cool the whole time. I said, just keep talking. You just keep talking. And so he was rattling off, it was really adorable. He was rattling off these, did you know facts? Like, did you know that there's more penguins in blah, blah, blah? I don't even remember half of what he was saying, but his voice was like keeping me calm. And I have not had a bad low like that in a while. And it was that bad, where I
Hmm.
was scared. And I was dripping with sweat. Like, I said to him, I was like, look at me. My shirt was soaked all the way through. As soon as we got back to my house, as soon as I felt better, we started driving again. We came home, and I came up into my room and had to totally strip down and change all my clothes. Like, that's how much sweat and
Hmm.
it's just so frustrating, and obviously I would have seen it if I had my CGM on, because it would have been alerting me, and I was just depending on how I felt and pricking my finger, and I hadn't pricked my finger probably in an hour. um, and so that, and then I felt terrible for the rest of the day. Like, I don't
Hmm.
know
It
what
really
it
depletes
does
you.
to
Yeah.
your
It's really
physical
depleting.
body, but I was
Hmm.
exhausted for the rest of the day, and even kind of the next day, I felt kind of crappy for
Hmm.
most of the, and I didn't sleep well because I was,
Hmm.
just paranoid.
Oh my God, totally. Yeah.
So that was my frustration, and
Yeah.
not being able to refill. I have talked to the pharmacy to see if I can refill early, but they haven't approved it
Yeah.
yet. So it's just been
Yeah.
sitting
So
there.
I will just tell you, you
Yeah,
can, I
tell.
mean, not to get my doctor voice, but
Get in your doctor voice.
your your insurance will not refill anything early. Like they would just will
Oh,
not do that. I mean, because they have a particular amount that they will cover. So you in those sort of situations, you really have to go back to the company and get them to replace it. And you can do
yeah.
that online. I just did that like a week ago because I had one that fell
And
off
I've done that
early.
before, but I was
But it
afraid
takes,
that they were gonna say, well, you've tried to do this too many times.
yeah, I would just still do it. I mean, yeah, they're all doing quite well. So
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it's okay to,
They
yeah,
can send me an
especially
extra sensor.
they can send you an extra sensor. Yeah, because I think a lot of people get in these tussles with their insurance company, and
Yeah,
sometimes they'll give it to you a couple of days early, but
yeah,
the vast majority just will not because they cover three or they cover two a month, and that's it. And so you
yeah,
really have to go back to the company and get them. And I think the challenge for so many of us now is, and I think this is underappreciated, is by the medical system is that we're so reliant on these things. I mean, they're
yes,
lifesavers,
yeah,
like you would have not, I mean, thank God nothing bad happened, but that sensor, could have saved your my life. And I see people all the time where the sensor saved
yeah.
their life,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was in a car
so it's,
driving about to get on the bridge with a ton of
yeah,
other car, that, I mean, that could have,
yeah. I mean,
that could
that
have
could have,
gone so
oh,
badly.
I just, you can't even think about that. Yeah, that's
Right.
terrible. Yeah. So I'm so sorry that happened. That's really,
I know.
I am so like, yeah, I cannot, I need my sensor.
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
just feel so anxious without having that information and just that predictive, and just sleep is so
Right.
scary,
Right.
you
Right.
know?
Sleep, going to
Yeah,
sleep,
yeah,
and not knowing.
yeah,
And
yeah,
well, so I still don't have a CGM, and I'm going
yeah.
to Savannah next week for a conference, leaving on
Oh
Tuesday,
my gosh.
and it's
Yeah.
Friday. So, and I have messaged my doctor, but she hasn't gotten back to me. So what would you do? Like, yeah,
Yeah.
what, call
So
Dexcom?
yeah, I would call Dexcom and tell them your situation, and sometimes they'll get it to you faster. The online one takes at least a week, so that
Yeah,
won't get to you any
yeah,
faster. Yeah, so I would call Dexcom and tell them your situation, and make a fuss. And then if your doctor has samples, I don't know if
yeah.
they
That's
do
what I
do
was
that
thinking too.
sampling.
Yeah, Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Just to
So I would
get me until my
probably,
next refill.
yeah. Oh my God, totally. Yeah. So I would probably either call or just show up there, honestly.
And then I thought, I would pay. Like if they would just sell me, and
Right.
not cover, like I don't know how much that would cost, but I would
Yeah.
rather go and pay whatever it was to have a
Hmm.
CGM so that I wasn't
Right.
without.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I
And
don't think
I
we're
don't know if
even
you saw,
allowed to do that, are we? Like,
yeah. Well, I think they'd probably have to send in maybe a separate prescription. I don't know how that would work.
yeah,
But I mean, yeah, you don't have to run it through insurance. You can pay for it out of pocket. And
for things.
I don't, yeah, but you do need a prescription for it.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely not easy. I just read, or just got some sort of notification that actually Dexcom G7 is going to have an over-the-counter sensor
Oh,
that's going to
really?
be available. Yeah, the Stello, I think it is. I think it's the G7. I don't know
Well,
when
which
that's. It's
makes
just got
sense
FDA approved. Hmm.
because so many people without diabetes are using them. So
Exactly.
it opens up a whole new
Exactly.
market for them, you
Yep.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. So that maybe will make life a little bit easier if you just want to go buy one.
Yeah,
But oh,
I know.
such a
So
pain.
that
Yeah.
was that was my biggest frustration of the week. But
Yeah. And I had actually sort of a similar yet different sort of. I was just talking to one of my friends at work who also has diabetes yesterday about pressure lows. I don't know if you ever get those, but where you roll over on your sensor, if you lay on it or sleep on it, it basically squeezes all the fluid out of your skin. And so it reads artificially low because there's no glucose there.
oh, I didn't know
And
that.
yeah, they're called pressure lows. And I just, it tends to be more problematic for me in the first 24 hours. So it's just, so the nights where I have a new sensor is just often I sleep on it and then it's waking me up and it gets that low. And I know I'm not low because low
Right,
means like under 50. And I'm like, oh, I'm definitely not that. And,
right.
and I go and I calibrate anyway. And then you're up and you're calibrating and it's like, okay, well, now I'm up.
And
It's like, it's so
sometimes when
hard to go
I've
back to sleep.
calibrated, yeah, like sometimes if it's way off and I've calibrated, they'll reject it and
Yeah.
say, "No, well, it's not accepting your calibration," which I'm like, well,
Right. Now what do I do? Yeah.
right,
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, so mine was just more about just I mean, it's such a blessing to have these sensors and these
right.
devices and oh my gosh, just sometimes the fragmented sleep with,
Yeah,
just the alerts and the beeps and the
yeah.
stuff is just really
And I
hard.
constantly silence mine too, but it only allows you to
Hmm.
silence it for like 6 hours,
Right.
I don't
Yeah.
need the alert. Like I look at it often enough that I don't need it to be,
Right.
beeping at me.
Right. Right. But mine, it's reading like I'm, super low, so it's not going to shut up.
Right.
And I had the app on my phone, and that, oh my God, that siren alarm is
Yeah.
so loud. It's like,
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, so that was my kind of. It's just a hard
I know.
thing. It's a
I
hard
know.
thing.
Yeah, and I would love to know what's going on, and I don't know if you know this, but like, what's going on to the rest of my body when a low like that is happening? Why am I drenched in sweat? Why, like, why am I exhausted for 24 hours afterwards? Like
Yeah,
what is all of that about? Is it because I'm getting older and these are just harder to
yeah,
harder to, I don't know, to live through?
yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, it's definitely like a huge stress for your body. So there are all
Yeah.
these counter-regulatory hormones that are just, like I don't know if you've ever had like just a severe stress or felt like you were going to faint or anything like that. A lot of those symptoms are the same,
Right.
with just the sweating and you know, a lot of the other symptoms that come with
Yes.
it.
Yeah,
So it's
true.
definitely like your body is in high
Like
stress.
alert. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a whole cascade of hormones that are released in response to that
Okay.
and often it leads to really high blood sugars later on for lots of reasons. But yeah,
Really, like I could not communicate with Reed. Like I was trying to explain to him what was going, because I couldn't, he
yeah,
just had to keep talking. And I said it's like inside my head felt as if I was, standing in like a schoolroom, a classroom right underneath the fire alarm. And the fire alarm is just going like this, like blah, blah,
hmm,
blah. And the fire alarm was just, basically saying sugar, sugar, sugar. It was like that was the
hmm,
only I
yeah,
compute any other thought than that.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. And that's just brain hypoglycemia in that sort of situation. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
your brain's just not getting enough sugar glucose to operate. Yeah, super scary. But I do think that I mean, I do think as we get older, that's hypoglycemia is just, it's very depleting.
yeah,
And that, I mean, that sounds like a bad one. So, I mean, often
right,
those are often
right, right.
pretty
Which
exhausting.
I haven't had one of those in a while, but
Yeah, yeah.
and then it always brings up, I don't know how you manage this, but like, but I was feeling particularly ragged the next day,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to go into the office, and and there was like a big, and I don't call out sick too often, but there
Mm-hmm.
was a big part of me that really just wanted to call out sick and stay in bed all day and recuperate.
Right,
But
right.
and I know my job would be fine and they would get it, but I also hate I didn't want to stay homesick and lie about why I was staying homesick, but I
Mm-hmm.
also didn't want to say, it was because of my blood sugar, because I've always had, when I was first diagnosed, 14 years old, 1985, um, the head nurse at my boarding school, she was the only other person that on campus that had type 1, and she was like 60 or something, and I just remember her lecturing me one time after I had recently, when I came back to school and I was trying to get back into the flow of things, and she lectured me about don't ever use diabetes as a crutch. That was her phrasing, just making me feel very shamed about
Mm-hmm.
using it, quote unquote, as a crutch.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that's the reality. I felt like shit.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
didn't, I went to work, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just always had
Yeah,
those conflicts.
yeah. Yeah, and I think it's I always think it's so interesting how those early years of diabetes have such a have such an impact on
Right.
our kind of approach and feelings about our kind of disease. And I think my perspective has evolved just over time because I do think that we struggle with things that people who don't have diabetes don't have to struggle with. And so
Yeah.
I think
Right.
I mean, I fill out a lot of, paperwork, FMLA stuff for people so that they have accommodations to deal with
Oh, do you really?
these types of things. Oh yeah. And, I mean, and I think a lot of it's, very appropriate. People asking for, breaks and asking for being able to eat and, just things
Right.
that some jobs may not have as much
Right.
restriction about. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think sometimes you have a bad low blood sugar and you just need some time to recover. And that's,
Right.
yeah, I mean, it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I think it is something probably interpersonally you have to navigate with,
Right.
but I
Yeah.
think it's just a reality that
Yeah.
it's just different.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think all of us go through these times. Like I remember when I was younger, feeling very like, I'm never going to let my diabetes slow me down. I'm going to
Right.
do everything. I'm never. And then over time, I've just realized like, well, that was a very youthful kind of approach. And now it's
100%.
like, I have to let it slow me down because it's like, I can't go out and do that stuff because I got to deal with lows and highs and all this stuff,
Right.
wearing all this stuff and,
Yeah.
anything. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I
yeah.
remember that goes back to Lily and the nurse too, because she told this whole story, which made me hate diabetes even more because I was like, oh, I just hated her whole story was about this one time when she was with her sister and they were like in a canoe, they were canoeing, and she felt her blood sugar dropping, and so she had her sister like pull the canoe over, and she sat there in the canoe while her sister ran back up to the house to get her some juice or something, and she just sat there and waited, and when she was telling me at the time, I was like, oh, I wouldn't sit there and wait. Like I'd go, I'd get up the hill, I'd go get the juice myself, and that's so passive, and that was just a youthful,
Yeah.
I don't rejection of what she was saying. I just didn't like
Yeah.
the idea of being passive, of sitting there and
Hmm.
waiting for somebody to help you, like
Right.
couldn't take care of yourself. But
Right. Right. Although she probably made the right decision because she probably
right,
would have run
right,
up the hill like fainted
right,
about that low blood
right, be
sugar.
falling
And then,
over. Yeah,
yeah. Yeah. So it may have been the right decision of the con. I mean, but can you even imagine back in those days? I mean, that was like,
Oh,
God,
yeah,
I mean, just, not having any way to monitor your sugar was all reliant on symptoms and
yeah,
all those
yeah,
awful insulins. And oh my gosh,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that
No,
was
I know.
it must have been really hard.
I should
Yeah.
have had more empathy towards good old
Well, yeah,
Wilbur.
yeah,
It's just like
yeah,
the worst role model that to have
yeah,
as a 14-year-old, to have this, the only person that I knew with diabetes was
yeah,
this older 60-year-old woman nurse. Yeah, anyway,
yeah, yeah.
that's a tangent.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm really sorry that that happened, and I hope you are able to. I think so much of what, I mean, that was probably one of our other topics was just access to insulin, but I think so much about um, management these days with chronic disease, but especially with diabetes, is just accessing all your stuff because there's so
Yeah,
many things that you need to have available to be safe, to travel, to do all this stuff.
yeah.
And, just the complexity of navigating our healthcare system to get those things that you need
And not
is just
even that. That was like
time consuming.
yeah. Another thing I was going to say was in this same 2 week period, and again, work has been really busy and really stressful, and so I've been distracted. But I, I dropped off Reed at school, drove to work, got there, was at my desk for, maybe an hour and a half, and I could feel that my blood sugar was going up. So I reached over to prick my finger because that's all I had. And it was like 175. And so I went to do an extra small injection, and I didn't have any syringes in my bag.
Hmm.
I, I completely, I had no syringes.
Yeah.
Like that never happens to me. And
Hmm.
it just goes to show, like it never, the challenges are always there. It's not like you
Totally.
get better with age, it just, or with years of having diabetes. But the last thing I wanted to do was have to get back in my car and drive
Right.
all the way home to get my syringes. And so yeah, I was able to get a prescription called in and walk to the pharmacy and get, but of course the pharmacy, they were like, oh, well, let me check and see if we have any of these syringes in stock. And I thought, just, I want
Yeah.
something to go easy for me. But I felt like an idiot too, again, because I didn't want to say that at work. Like I have to drive home because I forgot my syringes.
Oh, it's easy for other people to think that that's, I mean, just tracking all that stuff and everything. And you can buy syringes over the counter. You don't need a prescription.
No, I did not know that.
Oh, yeah, yeah. You can buy all that stuff. You can buy,
Really?
yep, yep. And if your pharmacist gives you a hard time about it, I mean, syringes, pen needles, all that stuff. I mean, obviously your insurance won't pay for it, but you can buy that stuff over
Right.
the counter. And you
Well,
can
do you have
always
to
buy
show
too.
something to like show? No.
Mm-mm.
Huh,
Nope.
interesting. I did not know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, yeah. It's really good to know kind of what you have access for, because again, so much of what we have to do these days is advocate for ourselves. But
Right.
you can also buy, I mean, not that you would want to, but in a pinch you might, but you can buy NPH insulin over the counter, you can buy regular insulin over the counter.
Huh,
You need prescriptions, and this is just seems sort of silly, but all the analog insulins like Humalog, Aspirin, all that stuff you need a
right.
prescription for, but the other ones you can buy over the counter.
And then
And you
this,
do not need to run any of the insulin through your insurance. So if you want to pay for it out of pocket, you can do that and use a good RX coupon or whatever.
right.
It could potentially be expensive, although a lot of insulins now have programs that make it cheaper, but
Yeah,
and then it doesn't count towards your deductible. I mean, it's all this kind of stuff, but again, just being informed that way is really
right.
important, because you really, if you get into a pinch traveling or
Right.
whatever, it's just good to
Exactly.
know, like, transfer your prescriptions to another Walgreens. You can walk in and just pay out of pocket and get reimbursed later.
Yeah. No, that's good
Yeah.
to know. I did not know that.
Yeah. 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 It's there's just a lot of details to that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like my brain can only hold on to so much at a time.
Yeah. Yeah. And every time I go into the drugstore, I think, oh my gosh, I think that job is just so hard these days, being a pharmacist.
Can you imagine? I feel like
No.
they are like flight attendants, like
Yeah.
who just are are just getting through their day. Like where everybody that you are dealing with is angry, is upset with you, like,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you can see that waiting in line at the pharmacy to pick up your prescription. Everybody there is ready to to have to
yeah.
have to do
Unload.
battle, right?
Yeah, yeah. And it's like they're just the messenger. Just, I feel
Right.
so much for
They're the
those
poor
people.
middle,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I do have
Oh,
empathy for them. Yeah.
yeah. That is a hard job
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So, um, how have you been feeling? Any other diabetes related like health stuff or
Yeah. I
no?
would say, yeah, for me lately, it's just been about, sleep and disturbances and alerts and
Right.
alarms and all of that kind of stuff. It's just been driving me crazy. It's got better. Once I get past the first 24 hours, it usually gets better, but the first day is always like such a pain.
And that's,
Um,
thinking the first 24 hours when you have to change it like every however many days,
yeah,
uh,
it's a lot.
yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes it's worse than others. But yeah, I'm always kind of like, oh gosh, this is going to be one of those. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's just a pain. But yeah, I mean, other than that, it's just, just the day-to-day stuff. Also getting ready for, I don't know for where you are, because you may not have as much season kind of variability, but for us, we're just with getting into spring and summer, the activity and I think food choices really change for people. Just they eat
Yeah.
lighter, they're outside more. You probably do
Right.
too
I
because it gets so hot
agree.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so just getting ready for all of that stuff and trying to figure one of my things on my list today is I've got to sit down and look at my data on my pump and sensor just to get some idea of like what my patterns are to I never do it. I mean, I do it intermittently, but it always really helps to just see like, oh
Right.
yeah, this is what's happening. Like, because you look at it moment to moment, and you just don't have a sense of like what your
Yeah.
patterns are, and there's
Yeah.
usually something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
helpful for me.
That's true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's my thing for today, diabetes wise.
I know, and that true. Just thinking about the whole diet and eating thing, and just feeling so. I don't know about you, but I feel so high maintenance. With my eat and as you know, I've been back in the whole dating world post divorce, and so having to like and most of what you do on dates is go out to dinner, right? Which
Yeah.
not only is very expensive,
Oh my God.
but I feel like every time we're trying to pick a restaurant or go somewhere and order something to eat, I know this is all internal, but I feel so high maintenance, because not only do I have diabetes and so make choices about what I'm
Right.
eating around that, but I'm vegetarian too, so I it just makes me feel high maintenance.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, and we had a work kind of retreat this morning and a catered lunch of it was like kind of Caribbean kind of food, just Jamaican Caribbean, and so it was a lot of like red rice and um, which I never do well with rice.
Hmm.
And anyway, um, yeah, so then I don't eat very much, and then people look at you like, why aren't you eating? And I don't know.
Right. Right. Yeah. I know I said that to somebody last week that, you know, she was talking about being a foodie. And I just thought to myself, God, that would be hard to be a foodie and
Yeah.
have diabetes, or I
Yes.
mean, to be really like, I mean, I can appreciate people who are able to navigate that, but I think food for me has just become so like functional. You know what I
Totally.
mean? Like, you just like, I'll eat that because it'll be easier, XYZ. It's like
Right.
there's no real adventure in it because every time there's an adventure, there's all these consequences that happen. Like
Totally.
last night, we went to this really great. We went to one of the arts and lectures thing. We saw Gabriel. Uh, oh,
Garcia.
tomorrow. No, the
Oh, oh,
Gabriel
oh,
tomorrow,
yes.
tomorrow.
Yes, yes, yes. I
Yeah,
won't
I'm
be able to
forgetting her name.
pronounce her name.
Zevin, Gabriella Zevin. Yeah.
How was that?
And it was great. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was great. She was really dynamic and interesting. But my sister and I went out for dinner ahead of time. And, it's like, it was just, I took too much and I got home and I was so full. And it was like, arrows going down. And I'm like, oh my God, I
I
just
know.
don't want
Last
to.
thing you
I'm
want
like,
is
so. oh,
Yeah.
like what, what do I, ugh,
Yeah.
it was just such a bummer.
Oh, I
It's
hate that.
just so, they were just so, it was just so not worth it too. Like,
Right.
I wish I just hadn't eaten anything because it was like, ugh, it wasn't even that great, you know. Anyway,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And
So,
yeah, and if you ate ahead of time, so not I don't know that this happened, but if you're sitting there trying to pay attention to something, to some event, but you're also
mhm,
worrying, feeling,
right.
being aware of how
Yeah.
you're feeling, and if you're feeling like
Yeah.
you're going
Oh my
up or
gosh. Yeah.
down.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know. I was
Definitely.
looking at was it a podcast or something by a woman with type 1, and I forget if it was YouTube video or podcast or what, but she was talking about switching from an Omnipod to some different kind of pump, and was talking about her time and range, and with automated, switching to automated, and the difference that she noticed, and the numbers that she was talking about. I was like, oh my God. She was talking about her time and range, just was like 90 some percent,
Oh my
and
gosh.
her high was like 150. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, if that was my highest high, I would feel amazing all the time, But it didn't seem,
Yeah.
is that like, does that require a ton of work? It didn't seem very realistic to me.
Yeah. I mean, I think it all depends. Yeah. I think there are people that, especially if you're a YouTuber about your diabetes, I mean,
True,
I think
true.
you may have a little bit of a different sort of emphasis on I mean, I can't speak to that person, but,
Right.
I think over 70%, that's what we're going for. You
Yeah.
know, like
Yeah.
I say to people all the time, no one's telling you you need to be 100%. You
Right.
just need to be over 70%,
Well, and that's what made
So,
me, frustrated too, because I feel like if people are listening to stories like this and hearing that
yeah,
can feel very
totally.
defeating if you're thinking that's what I'm
Yeah.
supposed to be doing, and
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
that can feel,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe super motivating for some people, but I think
Right.
also feel,
A
um,
little hopeless. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Impossible. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No one's perfect.
No, exactly. We're all in
Yeah.
it together.
We're all in it together. Yeah. Well, it's been awesome talking to you and kind of reviewing all
I
of these
know. And who do we have?
ongoing.
Who do we have coming up? We have a couple new episodes
Yeah.
coming.
Yeah. We got a new couple. So I was just reminding myself. So Brooke, I don't know if you've signed up for it, but Brooke Kassoff is going to be talking about Diabetes Sangha because they're
Oh, right,
doing
right. Good.
a course starting later this month on meditation and diabetes that's going to be fabulous. So
Oh, good.
I think we're doing that at some point in the next week or
Is she with
two.
Sam's group?
Uh-huh. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So she's co-leading this
Okay.
retreat, and I would really encourage people to go look at the Diabetes Sangha
Yeah.
website
Okay.
and sign up for the course because I know there's still spots available, and it's a Sunday afternoon kind of event for an hour. I think we're going to learn, and it's just going to be so great
And
meditating
that's
stuff.
probably exactly something like that that would be helpful to me, where it just,
That's helpful to, yeah, everybody. Yeah.
managing anxiety and stuff like that with
Yeah.
meditation. And
Yeah. Yeah. Just some guidance that way. And then I think we have,
we had
I
one
think
more
that's
on
our
the
new.
books.
Yeah, yeah. Diabetes Strong.
Oh, right, right,
Um,
right. Okay.
yeah, yeah. So one of the people from Diabetes Strong is going to be
Yeah.
speaking with us, and that'll be great.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And we would love any other ideas. Anyone that's listening today, if
Yeah.
anyone has ideas or suggestions or thoughts,
Please share them
please
with us.
share them because we are always looking for ideas and suggestions.
Yeah, you could just message us on
Hmm.
Instagram, which is just search for Embracing Diabetes on Instagram, right? I think that's what.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
You should
yeah.
know that.
And I know exactly. And I think we have an email too, right? Embracingdiabetes@gmail.com,
Yes, we do. I'm maybe we
which
have
I
a
forget to
maybe
check.
we have a lot of emails in there that we've missed out on.
Yeah, I looked a week or two ago. We're fine.
I'm
We're
sure
good.
we're fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's so
Oh,
good to catch up with you, and it's Friday, and hopefully you have some fun stuff planned over the weekend. I
we
feel
do.
like March flew by. I can't believe
Mhm.
that that it's already April 5th, but it's going to
Yeah.
continue to be busy for me for the next couple of months anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, good to see you, and
Yeah.
we'll check back in
Soon.
another couple weeks. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Bye, Liz.